The young man stepped up to the Anderson house. That's what everyone called it, the Anderson house. Kids that called it the Anderson house would dare one another to go inside. Parents that called it the Anderson house would warn the kids not to go in. It's condemned, they would say. And older people in the town, who knew why it was called the Anderson house, would get a shiver every time the house was called by name. Reese Wilson had no clue it was called the Anderson house. He knew it as a job, a rather out-of-the-way one at that. Reese had always worked in the city, boarding schools mostly. He was alerted of the job by letter, and though it seemed outdated, he was rather fond of the swirly wizard-like penmanship clearly done by quill and ink. "Dear Mr. Wilson," it read, "a teaching position has just been opened. We thus ask you accept our request for you to teach at Miss Anderson's School for Lost Children." Reese looked at the words, "lost children." He didn't really know what that meant. Maybe a more proper way of saying that the kids were young runaways? Or lost, as in lost their way, like juvie kids? Reese still didn't know, but after the accident, he wasn't going to be picky. No school would take him. No school except for Miss Anderson's School for Lost Children. This is how the English teacher found himself looking up at the old Victorian farmhouse. The house was painted a faded blue, the roof a dull gray. Reese's black cat winded her way between his legs. He had always kept Sabrina, the cat, close by. She was what he called a serendipity. Serendipity was once explained to Reese, by an ice cream woman, as looking for a needle in a haystack and finding the farmer's daughter. This was much like how he came by Sabrina. He had just got to the city, looking for his apartment, when sitting on the doorstep was a little black kitten. She was starving and freezing and dirty, but she looked at him with big green-yellow eyes as if she knew he needed her. Forever on, she was with him when he moved in, with him in the hospital after the accident, and she was with him now, even as he moved her halfway across the country to this old house in the middle of nowhere. Sabrina was his constant. "What do you think, Bee? I think it has some class." The cat looked up at him. "Yeah, okay, it's run down, but better than the city." The cat sat down, still looking at him. "Don't be that way, Bee. It'll be good for us." Perhaps with thoughts of pleasing her human, the cat trotted up to the school. Reese tried to follow, hitting his bad leg on one of the porch steps, and falling. Before he could even brace himself, he was in a set of gentle, warm arms. She was taller than he was, much taller, really. The woman had long strawberry blonde hair and forget-me-not blue eyes. He was pressed softly against her body. Reese noted she smelled of green tea and maybe something metallic. "The new English teacher." The accent somewhat surprised him, and it took him a long time for Reese to come back to reality. "What?" was all he managed. She let go of him slowly. "The new English teacher. That's you, right?" She spoke in a smooth and calculated voice. Reese tripped over his own words. Yes, I am." He smoothed his clothes over and offered a hand. "Reese Wilson, you were the head of the school? Or another teacher, I guess?" She looked at the hand, but didn't take it. "Yes, a teacher," she answered shortly. "Ah," was all Reese could answer. He pulled his hand back, blushing. "What subject?" he asked, trying his best to make conversation with the beautiful woman in front of him. Geography, history, French, math, and science. Reese let out a whistle. Wow. So, how many teachers work here? 3, yourself included. She nodded to him and opened the door. My name is Ruby, by the way. Miss Ruby to my students. Please come in. The house looked unlived in, dust all over, and the strong smell of old books and mothballs. Reese doubted for a moment that children even lived here. A little blonde girl ran past him, nearly knocking him down. She looked to be about 8, and was giggling madly. A redhead boy, of around the same age, ran after her, stepping hard on Reese's good foot. Ah, yeah, so there are kids here. Cute. Ruby showed him around the house, the classrooms, and to his room. Sabrina hopped up on the bed, watching him unpack and clean up the dust. Don't look at me like that, Bee. I will not be judged by a cat. Sabrina blinked, as if she thought otherwise. The teacher slammed a dresser drawer. Look, I'm doing the best I can. Ah! Reese let out a cry of pain. Gripping his bad leg, he sat down. Sabrina jumped up on his lap, purring softly. I'm sorry, Brina. You know I wouldn't just move us out here. But we need the work. It could be nice here. Seems quiet. Maybe quiet is what we need right now. A loud scream came from the hall outside, his bedroom, and Reese jumped up, upsetting the cat. He ran out the hall to see a little girl crying on the floor. She had long dark hair and outdated clothes. Reese wasn't a history teacher, but he thought maybe her clothes looked like they came from the Civil War time. He had been a teacher for so long, he didn't even backtrack. Children played dress-up all the time. This little girl looked about 5 or maybe 4. He knelt down to her. Hey you. No need to throw a fit. What's up? The little girl sniffed. I can't find my mommy, she gasped a little, close to more tears. Hey, it's okay. The teacher thought fast. Oh, do you like cats? She sniffed again and wiped her eyes, nodding some. Reese did his best to call Sabrina out, but she was still rather mad and kept her new place on top of his dresser. To show that she had no plans of leaving, she pushed a book off. It landed with a loud thud on the floor. Reese frowned, but the little girl giggled, clapping her small hands. After giving Sabrina a stern look, the teacher turned back to the little girl. And I'm teaching here now, so you can see the cat any time you wish. Her name is Sabrina, and I'm Mr. Wilson. The little girl looked up, and there was something dark and off about her eyes, like a TV static. I had a sister named Sabrina. Well, at least she wasn't crying anymore. Reese thought this was a good chance to get to know one of his students. Is she here with you? The girl looked like she might cry again, but she sighed and shook her head. She and Mommy went to heaven. They left me here. I'm sorry, Reese said. My mother passed away when I was young, too. It's always hard. But you know, it might be something that makes you stronger. After a moment or so, she started to smile again. Really? You think I'm strong? He chuckled. Of course I do. Reese leaned in to hug the child, and to his amazement, he passed right through her, as if she wasn't even there. But she was. Wasn't she?